Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Sloki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistikim. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. What's happening? My screen is not okay. That's fine. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. What's happening here today? Please bear with me. My computer is something cranky today. I don't know what's happening. Laptop is something bothering. Yes, okay. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, text number 18. Shomrutasya bhayastesho martyam annam yadatyagat mahimaisha tato brahman purushasya dudatyaya. Synonyms. Sa, he, the Lord, Amritasya, of deathlessness, Abhayasya, of prayerlessness, Isha, the controller, Martyam, dying, Annam, fruitive action, Yet, one who has, Atyagat, has transcended, Mahima, the glories, Esha, of him, Tatha, therefore, Brahman, O Brahmana, Narada, Purushasya, of the Supreme Personality, Duratyaya, immeasurable. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Sorry for the interruption. Is as everything is the screen okay? Lakshmi Kanta Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, I can see you. You're not sharing the screen, that's fine. I can see you.
All right, okay. Now, as of now, it's okay, right? There's no problem. Yeah. Okay. The translation purport by His Divine Grace of Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the controller of immortality and fearlessness, and He is transcendental to death and the fruitive action of the material world. O Narada, O Brahmana, it is therefore difficult to measure the glories of the Supreme Purport. The glories of the Lord in the transcendental 25% of the Lord's internal potency are stated in the Padma Purana, Uttarakanda. It is said there that those planets in the spiritual sky, which comprises the 75% expansion of the internal potency of the Lord, are far, far greater than those planets in the total universes composed of the external potency of the Lord. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the total universes in the external potency of the Lord are compared to a bucket full of mustard seeds. One mustard seed is calculated to be a universe itself. In one of the universes in which we are now lying, the number of planets cannot be counted by human energy. And so, how can we think of the sum total in all the universes, which are compared to a bucket full of mustard seeds? And the planets in the spiritual sky are at least 3 times the number of those in the material sky. Such planets, being spiritual, are in fact transcendental to the material modes. Therefore, they are consisted in constituted in the modes of unalloyed goodness only. The conception of spiritual bliss, Brahmananda, is fully present in those planets. Each of them is eternal, indestructible, and free from all kinds of limitations experienced in the material world. Each of them is self-illuminating and more powerfully dazzling than, if we can imagine, the total sunshine of millions of mundane suns. The inhabitants of those planets are liberated from birth, death, old age, and disease, and have full knowledge of everything. They are all godly and free from all sorts of material hankerings. They have nothing to do there except to render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Narayana, who is predominating deity of such Vaikuntha planets. Those liberated souls are engaged incessantly in singing songs mentioned in the Samaveda, Vedai Sangapada Karmopanishadayar Gayantiyam Samaga. All of them are personifications of the 5 Upanishads, Tripada Vibhuti, or the 75%, known as the internal potency of the Lord, is so to be understood as the kingdom of God, far beyond the material sky. And when we speak of Pada Vibhuti, or the 25% comprising his external energy, we should understand that this refers to the sphere of the material world. It is also said in the Padma Purana that the kingdom of Tripada Vibhuti is transcendental, whereas the Pada Vibhuti is mundane. Tripada Vibhuti is eternal, whereas the Pada Vibhuti is transient. The Lord and his eternal servitors in the transcendental kingdom of all have eternal forms which are auspicious, infallible, spiritual, and eternally youthful. In other words, there is no birth, death, old age, and disease. That eternal land is full of transcendental enjoyment and full of beauty and bliss. This very fact is also corroborated in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, and the transcendental nature is described as Amrita, as described in the Vedas. Utamritasya yave sangha. The Supreme Lord is the Lord of immortality, or in other words, the Lord is immortal, and because he is the Lord of immortality, he can award immortality to his devotees. In the Bhagavad Gita 8:16, the Lord also assures that whoever may go to his abode of immortality shall never return to this mortal land of threefold miseries. The Lord is not like the mundane Lord. The mundane masters or Lord never enjoys equally with his subordinates, nor is the mundane Lord immortal, nor can he award immortality to his subordinates. The Supreme Lord, who is the leader of all living entities, can award all the qualities of his personality unto his devotees, including immortality and spiritual bliss. In the material world, there is always anxiety of or fearfulness in the hearts of all living entities. But the Lord, being himself the supreme fearless, also awards the same quality of fearlessness to his pure devotees. Mundane existence is itself a kind of fear, because in all mundane bodies, the effects of birth, death, old age, and disease always keep a living being compact in fear. In the mundane world, there is always the influence of time, which changes things from one stage to another, and the living entity, originally being avikara or unchangeable, suffers a great deal on account of changes due to the influence of time. The changing effects of eternal time are conspicuously absent in the immortal kingdom of God, which should therefore be understood to have no influence of time and therefore no fear whatsoever. In the material world, So-called happiness is the result of one's own work. One can become a rich man by dint of one's own hard labor, and there are always fear and doubts as to the duration of such acquired happiness. But in the kingdom of God, no one has to endure to attain a standard of happiness. Happiness is the nature of the spiritual spirit, as stated in the Vedanta Sutra, Anandamayo Bhyasat. The spirit is by nature full of happiness. Happiness in spiritual nature always increases in volume with a new phase of as appreciation. There is no question of decreasing the bliss. Such unalloyed spiritual bliss is nowhere to be found within the orbit of the material universe, including the Janaloka planets, or for that matter, the Maharloka or Satyaloka planets, because even Lord Brahma is subject to the loss of fruitive actions and the loss of birth and death. It is therefore stated here, Duratheya, or in other words, spiritual happiness in the eternal kingdom of God cannot be imagined even by the great brahmacharis or sannyasis who are eligible to be promoted to the planets beyond the region of heaven. Or the greatness of the Supreme Lord is so great that it cannot be imagined even by the great brahmacharis or sannyasis, but such happiness is factually attained by the unalloyed devotees of the Lord by his divine grace. Jai. Such a wonderful, a long purport that Prabhupada puts out everything in all this is first canto, and in his purports, all these are considered, he said, declared it to be his spiritual ecstasy. So there is no dearth of anything. He covers all subject matter just without leaving any doubt to his readers in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Pachacha Desha Tarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Dvaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I just thought I think hardly only just another 15 to 20 minutes there. I would like to actually focus on this subject matter is a Purusha Sutta confirmed. In this few and another few minutes, what we have, I would like to just discuss on actually what is a sutta or what is a Purusha Sutta, and why in all these chapters are dedicated for the confirmation of the Purusha Sutta. So please bear with me for my sort of things like that. Now I will just say what is actually the sutta. A sutta is a hymn or is a composed of a set of rigs, and the rigs means an incantation that continue praises the Veda, which means knowledge. The knowledge of the sutta itself is the literal meaning of Rig Veda. The Rig Veda composes mainly of the praise of God. That is what a sutta means. Then Purusha, as we know that he is the supreme, that is personality of Godhead, and the sutta means the praise of the Supreme Lord. So these are all in these chapters, their confirmation of Purusha Sutta. So I would like to read the Purusha Sutta, just which is in all the temples when we just begin our the Archana sorts of things, that Abhishekam of Lord. So with these when we offer these 16 upacharas, that's called Shodasha upacharas, while bathing the deity, always we chant this Purusha Sutra. That would take about 7 to 8 minutes. For auspiciousness, we just chant these mantras without fail in all the temples that we adhere to this practice. So I just would like to read that and explain. So Please bear with me. Om Tacham Yora Vranimahe Gatum Yajnaya Gatum Yajnapataye Daivi Swastirastu Naha Swastir Yano Shebhya Urdvam Jigatu Beshajam Shanno Astu Dvipade Sham Shatutpade Om Shanti 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 Om Sahasra Sirsha Purusha Sahasrakshas Sahasrapat Sabhuvim Vishwato Vrutva Atyadistad Dashangulam Purusha Evedagam Sarvam Yadbhutam Yaccha Bhavyam Utamrutasya Seshashana Edanne Natirohati Yetavanasya Mahima Ato Jayadnashva Purusha Padosva Vishwa Bhutani Tripadastamrutam Divi Tripadurdam Udait Pushurusha. Padosyeha Bhavat Sunaha Tato Vishyajnas Kramat Sashana Nasyane Abhi Tasmad Vijada Jayataha Virajo Adhipurusha Sajato Atyaricha Atyarichyataha Sapachat Bhumi Madhupuraha Yat Purushena Havisha Deva Yajna Matanvata Vasanto Asyadi Rajyam Grishma Yidmas Sharadhavihi Saptasya Sanparidhaya Trisapta Samidha Krita Deva Yadyajnam Tanvanam Abaddan Purusham Pashum Tam Yajnam Barhishi Prakshan Purusham Jatamagrataha Tena Deva Ajayantaha Sadhya Rushayakshye Tasmad Yajnat Sarvahutaha Sambrutam Rushadajyam Pashuk Sakshakre Vayavyan Aranyan Nyamyasyare Tasmad Yajnataharvahutaha Rushasamani Jignire Chandam Sri Jagnire Tasmad Yajuntasmad Ajayata Tasmad Asva Ajayanta Ekesho Bhayav Dataha Gavoha Jignire Tasmad Tasmad Jnata Ajavayaha Yat Purusham Yadutha Katitha Kalpayan Mukham Kimasya Kau Bahu Kavuru Pada Uchete Brahmanosta Mukhamasit Bahu Rajanya Kritam Urudasya Yadvaisya Padmam Sudro Ajayata Chandrama Manaso Jataha Chaksho Suryo Ajayata Mukhya Dinracha Diksha Pranadvayu Rajayata Nabhya Asidantariksham Shirshodyau Samavartata Padma Bhumir Disho Shotrat Tatha Lokagam Akalpayan Vedahametam Purusham Mahantam Aditya Varnam Tamasastu Pare Sarvani Rupani Vichitya Dhiraha Namani Krutva Bhivavadan Yadante Dhata Purasadya Muda Jahara Shakra Pravidvan Vishakshatasya Tameva Vidvan Amruta Iha Bhavati Nanyam Panda Ayanaya Vidyate Yajnena Yajnamayajanta Deva Tani Dharmani Prataman Mansan Teha Nakam Mahimana Vachante Yatra Purve Sadhya Santi Deva Adya Sambhuta Prativai Rachacha Vishwakarmana Samavartatadi Tasya Tvasta Vidadha Drupameti Tat Purushancha Vishwamajanamagre Vedahametam Purusham Mahantam Aditya Varnam Tamasastu Paratat Tamevam Vidvan Amruta Iha Bhavati Nanyam Amda Vidyate Yanaya Prajapati Garbhe Antaha Ajayamano Bahuda Vijayate Tasya Dhira Parijananti Yonim Marichinam Padamichanti Vedanta Edasa Yo devebhya ati pati, yo devanam purohitaha, purvo yo devebhyo jataha, namo ruchaya brahmaye, rucham brahma janayantaha, deva agre tadabruvan, esvaivam brahmano vidyat, tasya deva asanvashe, richate lakshmisna patyau ahoratre parshve nakshatrani rupam, Asvinav Vyatam Istam Manishanam Amam Manishanam Sarvam Manishanam Om Tacham Yora Vrunimahe Gatum Yajnaya Gatum Yajnapataye Daivi Swastirastunaha Swastir Manushebhya Urdvam Jagatu Deveshajam Shanno Astudhyapade Cham Shatushpade Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So thank you for your patience, for patient listening. But then this is what Purusha Sukta prayers. I will just read this now, the meaning of that, and which in all these chapters, in all these chapters that Srila Prabhupada, that means that Srimad Bhagavatam explains the Purusha, that in these selected prayers. So we'll just read the meaning as it is all close, like they say the Chatushpade, Dipade, and the Brahmana, how the Brahmanas come, and the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas and Shudras. So this is nothing but all that is explained in the Purusha Sukta prayers. This is what it is explained. So the first, this thing that we just read was that meaning of that is Sahasrashirsha Purusha, that is the Purusha has 1,000 heads, he has 1,000 eyes, he has 1,000 feet, but in fact it is innumerable. It is expressed in these cantations, but that is 1,000, but that's innumerable actually. It says here, he is spread all over the universe and is beyond the count with 10 fingers. Okay, and the second one, the Purusha is all the past, all the future, and the present. He is the Lord of deathlessness, and he rises from hiding from this universe of food. Then the third cantation just speaks that this Purusha is much greater than all his greatness in what all we see. And all that we see in this universe is but his quarter. Like yesterday, Premananda Mataji, you can just recall that her thing in the other realm, spiritual realm is 3/4, and this is Tripada Vibhuti, and then this is one Ekapada Vibhuti that is in this the material realm. So these are the things we can just remember. And about this world, okay, and all that we see in this universe is but his quarter, and the rest 3/4, which is beyond destruction, is safely in the worlds beyond. Above this world is 3/4 of Purusha, but the quarter which is in this world appears again and again. And from that is born the being that take food, and those inanimate ones that don't take food. And all these appeared for every one of us to see. From that Purusha was born the scintillating, ever-shining universe, and from that was born the Purusha called Brahma, and he spread himself everywhere and created the earth and then the bodies of all beings. Then the next cantation, the meaning of next one is the spring was the ghee, the summer was the holy wooden sticks, and the winter the sacrificial offering used or the sacrifice conducted by devas through thought, in which they also sacrificed the ever-shining Purusha. Then the next cantation, the meaning of next cantation, 7 meters were its boundaries, 21 principles were holy wooden sticks, and devas carried out the sacrifice, and Brahma was made as the sacrificial cow. Then the meaning of next cantation, sprinkle they the Purusha who was born first on that sacrificial fire, and the sacrifice was conducted further by the devas called sadhyas and the sages who were there. In the next cantation meaning, from this sacrifice called all embracing, curd and ghee come out, animals meant for fire sacrifice were born, birds that travel in the air were born, beasts of the forest were born, on also born were those that live in villages. Next. From this sacrifice called all-embracing, the chants of Rigveda were born, the chants of Samaveda was born, and from that the well-known meters were born, and from that Yajurveda was born. Next cantation. From that the horse came out, from that came out animals with one row of teeth, from that came out cows with 2 rows of teeth, and from that they came out sheep and goats. And the Purusha was made by their thought process by the Devas. How did they make his limbs? How was the face made? Who were made as his hands? Who were made as his thighs and feet? Brahm, the next cantation. His face became Brahmanas, his hands were made as Kshatriyas, his thighs became Vaishyas, and from his feet were born the Shudras. From his mind was born the moon, from his eyes were born the sun, from his face was born Indra and Agni, and from his soul was born the air. From his belly button was born the sky, from his head was born the heavens, from his feet was born the earth, from his ears were born the directions, and thus was made all the worlds just by his holy wish. So next one. I know that heroic Purusha who is famous, who shines like a sun and who is beyond darkness, who created all forms, who named of all of them and who rules over them. Of course, it goes on again, a repetition of the same thing and elaboration. But since we don't have time, in this, of course, the Bhagavad Gita sloka refers to the Abrahma Bhavana Loka, Punaravartano Zuna Mamupete the Konteya Punarjanman Vidyate. The transcendental one who attains that there is no rebirth, one doesn't have to take birth again in this material world, which is full of birth, death, old age, and disease. Since it's almost 8 o'clock, I just want to just open it for any kind of comments or discussions on this subject matter. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. I have one quick question, yes, Prabhu. It was really a wonderful class. You gave the meaning of Purusha Suktam. So usually we recite this Purusha Suktam when we are doing Saligram Puja, right?
Yes, Vishnu Tattva deity, anything. Saligram means or when we Vishnu deities, when we just doing it. Of course, in our ISKCON, we just Govinda Madi Purusham, that is Brahma Samhita prayers, we just offer, that is offer prayers offered by the Lord Brahma. But this is specifically when we do the Saligram worship or Lakshmi Hayagriva, Lakshmi Narasimha, all these things. Just generally in other temples, they do this, Vishnu worship. When they do this, this is appropriate prayers that they offer. They read these mantras.
Okay, so in ISKCON, we chant Purusha Suktam or
we do. I'm talking about, because before this in Hyderabad, I'm talking about 25 years back, and we have them now even till date. And the Prabhu who is doing is one of my god brothers doing that. He just chants these mantras in the morning, because he goes twice in a week for these the worship of the deity. There he is the grahastha living outside outside the temple, but he goes there and he does these things. And I asked him to know, curious about how is worship going on there like that. Then he just explained me all these procedures that they do.
Okay. So we should use Purusha Suktam while doing Saligram worship, or we can use
yes, you can use that, because of course if you have elaborate at the time so much left for you. The Purusha Sukta, and after that is a Brahma Samhita prayers can also be. There's nothing wrong in chanting the mantras, but then that depends on the time factor. How much time do you have with all that? We're in so much in the morning, so that depends on that. Because these are all auspicious things. There is nothing wrong in, can we chant this or not? That's not the matter. That's not the case. That all that is, that important thing is that we complete within the stipulated time that is allocated to us. That's the matter.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you very much. Anybody else has anything else? Please open up. Okay, Lakshmikant Prabhu, if there are no questions or no comments on this, then we can close room for the day. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyacha. Kripa sindhu vyavacha patitanam pavani.